Welcome back to Great Scott Marcus here on Ramble Entertainment, episode 29. Put Louie away because he pooped on me. I'm Scott, and that one's Mark. Here on the topic of the show, on Great Scott Marcus, we break out into small topics we call rambles, and then we have a large topic we call topic. We're original. Anyway, Mark,
Yes.
bad news. We're both turning 30 this year. You in like less than 3 months,
sir.
me in just
Less
over...
than 3 months.
Just
Yeah. It is now April 2nd.
just under 8 months. Yeah. So, I have a noose. You want to drive up here and we can just, get
I
this
like
over
that.
with? Okay.
Instead of drinking Kool-Aid, we'll just hang ourselves with the same rope.
Oh, yeah, the Kool-Aid does sound easier and more relaxing.
And probably a little tastier, yeah. I mean, minus the whole probably vomiting our guts out thing, but yeah, we'll get over it. You're
Anyway, that got dark. So...
Yes.
For a long time, I had heard fellow friends, coworkers kind of talking about this mentality, and I'm sure there are those that don't talk about this, where either they freak out in their head or they're just like, whatever, I'm successful, and, I have a wife and shit, and I'm turning 30. But for me, and you, both of us have had some tumults within our life, and I would say that, yeah, kind of rightly so, we're in this mindset finally where it's just like, oh, now I understand why people kind of like, oh, I'm turning 30, holy shit. And yeah, it's definitely one of those things that you just can't understand until you kind of get there. For me, it's only come up after I turned 29.
Right.
And were you kind of freaking out before 29?
I kind of switched, man. Like, I was freaking out pretty much, I want to say, after age 25 up until 29. Like, when I turned 29, the freaking out, the realization of being 30 kind of eluded me after that point. I was just like, I don't really care anymore. Like, I was, like, at 25, I was like, oh my God, I'm on the other side of 25. I'm now approaching 30. And then, of course, 26, 27, 28 was like, all right, I'm getting closer and closer. This is getting terrible. And then 29 happened. And I think at 29, I was also, that's when I think I started following a lot of, personalities on social media, whether it was Twitter or Instagram. And some of those personalities were I'm a pirate. Were in their 30s.
Enough.
Like, we're already like 30
I'm going to get you a
so.
peg leg.
Wait a minute. I'm on top of you on that one.
It's not a peg leg.
Yeah. I need to be a pirate one year for Halloween. It'll be cool.
It would be, because everyone would be like, how did you do that? And you'd be like, I cut off my own leg.
Bandsaw. That's how I did it.
Bandsaw. Chainsaw. It was great. You should have been there.
Yeah. But
Jesus.
no,
This is a dark topic.
We haven't talked in a while, so I think all of our our inner darkness is now coming out on this recording. But anyways, a lot of these personalities I had followed were 30 already, or like were in their late 30s, or older than me in any way. And I was just like, you know what? They're still having fun. They're also still kind of, getting their life together. They're not married. They're not, living in a house.
But their personalities, like they have...
Yeah, I'm not saying like I'm not like people that don't. I don't know. They're not like celebrity status, but it's just like people that are like, oh, this person seems interesting or hot. I'll follow you. I'm just like, oh yeah, but the point is, it got over my irrational fear of turning 30.
This hot chick.
Yeah.
That I don't know. And I'm just following. I'm just stalking her on Twitter. That helped me get over turning 30.
130,000 people. Like, it's fine.
It's fine.
Fine. But she got over my irrational fear of turning 30. So I'm like, hey, this hot girl's 31 years old. She's still living it up. That's cool. Going on vacations, and she's not married. And it's just like, typically, I feel like, when it comes to that part of life and being old is, the settling down thing. And as we discussed earlier, I went to a wedding this weekend with my cousins. He's younger than me. Dakota's getting married in May. He's 24. I think Kylie is 22. Like fucking young, and we're approaching 30. And 26-year-old Mark would have been like, whoa, like I gotta settle down soon. Like I need a relationship now. And but 29 and 3/4 mark, I'm just like,
Nah.
whatever. Like, it's just me telling you the reports. Anybody get drunk on a Tuesday? I don't, you know, that's
Yeah, so like here's the thing. I think that it's not a fear of turning 30, and I don't think it's also being irrational about turning 30. In fact, it's almost the rational side of me about turning 30. So like I touched on it in the first topic that we in the first ramble that we technically have to re-record because your mic was muted. So yeah, there's a little inside to Great Scout Marcus happening right here as we record it. Yeah, like I guess for me, so like you mentioned people getting married at different ages. Like for me, that's definitely been something to calm the nerves. My brother, in his just coming upon his 40s or in his 40s now. I'm terrible with knowing ages. It's just something I don't commit to memory. I think a lot of that has to do with my mentality of, yes, I'm dusting while we're recording.
I just feel like after 21, like you're just like, who gives a shit about age until 30?
I still pretty much don't give a shit about age. I think a lot of it is just because like you can talk to 21-year-olds who are more mature than like 40-year-olds. So for me, maturity has always not been a question of what age are you, but you know, like how you handle yourself, how you present yourself. I do think that age, you know, always plays a factor here and there. Like, I'm not going to get into a relationship with someone who's 21. That's just, you know, at my age, that's not something I'm going to do. But yeah, like my brother, you know, just got married to a beautiful, wonderful woman. Or at least so it seems. You know, you never really know someone.
She's actually the Kraken.
Yeah, what the heck? Rick and Annie, I hope you don't watch this podcast ever. Anyway, so yeah, like that definitely helps to like kind of calm the nerves about things. But yeah, I guess it's just kind of like, I get that, you know, there are those out there who are more successful than us that still haven't figured things out. We, you know, like I said, we've both had life situations that have kind of almost like offset things.
Right.
I still just, it's this notion that like, I'm already halfway dead. I don't know. No, that's not it. Getting dark again.
Stop listening to
so
music.
let's kind of like hone in on things. So you already kind of like brought up weddings and marriage and relationships. So like let's hone in on that aspect. For me, I am now newly single again. As we will kind of touch on the first ramble. There are facets to that I'm not good with. You know, kind of just being single again, getting back out there, I guess. And for me, it's something I definitely don't want to rush to. I want it to feel connected. I am not going to just like jump at something. Instead, it's just like I feel connected with this person, so I'm going to continue to talk to them. I'm going to show them affection. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to give the fuck up. And that's important, and that's really one I wanted to hit on when I was thinking about this before we started recording. I recall so many times where it was just like, okay, so I like her, but you know, like I'm not sure, you know, so like I'm gonna reason it in my head why she still might like me, even though I'm definitely seeing these signals that she probably isn't into me. You know, still kind of see that around me. I recall plenty of times that I continually did that when others would be like, no, that what you're getting is a pretty strong signal that it's a no. And yet people, you know, and yet I would continue to do that. And yet now it's just like, no, you know, if I'm going to have interest in someone, it's going to be towards someone who is showing interest back. It is, you know, like I hate to almost talk in such broad terms, but it is such a waste of fucking time to pine over someone and to brood over someone who is just like, dude, there's this other chick that's like totally into you, and if you just like took a second to think about that, you would probably be like really happy with her. Or ladies, like there's this guy, that like you would be really happy with. So just like get over this
Oh my
guy that
God,
you
yeah.
can't be. Or, again, vice versa. So kind of equal opportunity on the show. Chicks into chicks, dudes into dudes. Like, just get over them, move on. You will find someone else who's better. And again, I do want to also tiptoe around this at the same time, because I know Jenny, you still probably watch, and no, I have taken a lot of time to kind of like. Her and I are kind of going through this at separate intervals, where like I kind of started to realize like. Basically, that things, we both landed jobs, neither were career paths, and that things were really starting to stagnate. And I was just like, fuck, how and when are we going to get to each other? Are we going to be retired and 50 when we get to each other? And so, like I went through depression, and then I was just like, maybe I'll get past this and maybe we can just move on. And then finally I was just like, nope, can't get past this. And, to those that know me and watch, like, it sucks royally. Like, I might not wear my shit on my sleeve, but don't assume. And yeah, like, don't assume that it's easy. And so yeah, basically moving on from that, I forget the point of why I was saying that. But yeah, it sucks royally. I talked it out with her, and like we've both been very reasonable and mature about it, like I mentioned, and that's important too. I think, kind of. I definitely, here's where I want to pass the buck back to you, because I've noticed that we've both really been doing less of this as we've done this show more and talked about this shit more. We both wear our emotions on our sleeves a lot less and just kind of handle our emotions, our anger, our frustration, our guilt, our desperation, our depression a lot better than we used to. We've been friends for, fuck, has it been 8 years already? No. 7 years.
About 7, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, about 7 years. That sounds about right.
I think it's time I propose, so let's just end the show. Yeah, anyway. So, yeah, basically, we've been friends for about 7 years, and it just seems like we are handling this stuff better. And again, I can't help but circle back to, is that us as people? Is that maturity? Is that us progressing our own sense of culture? Where do you kind of stand on our sense of emotions?
I mean, I believe it's both. I guess my penis had the answer, so I looked down at it. I think it's
I can't help but be cognizant of that bald spot that the headphones help to bring out. And yes, I am Roganing. I've been Roganing for like the past year and a half, and it works.
Nice. You're not sponsored by Rogaine.
We are not. Nope. Anyway, in fact, it's the off-brand, so it wouldn't even matter. This is not sponsored by the off-brand of Rogaine.
I like it. I think it's both. I think it is general maturity. Well, I guess you can kind of come back to what is maturity, what makes one mature.
There have certainly been things that have impacted both of us within the past year that have helped to, I hate to say it, Mark, but forced us along.
Yeah, no, honestly, I think it's been more than the past. I mean, yeah, the past year has been that was the past year.
Don't throw up on camera. That. We can't put that on YouTube. Actually, we probably can.
And I was reading something interesting the other day. It was talking about like how life is kind of like a pendulum, and when you're young, it's just you're constantly back and forth to extremes. You make a mistake, you learn from the mistake, and then you go back and forth. And basically through every life experience, that pendulum swing is a lot less dramatic back and forth. And the proof in that is when you're a kid, actually a kid, like a child, like you're just everything's chaotic, everything's new, and you experience things. And obviously, you stub your toe, you cry for hours, or you don't get your cookie that you want, and life is ending. Whereas, when you're in your 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever, like it seems like nothing bothers like the elderly because like they've had these experiences, and that pendulum is now
very
a
just
slight titter-tatter. If anything, it might just be completely vertical. And I think that's kind of what we've actually been going through in our mid to late 20s is we've had a lot of these big experiences that have brought that pendulum from extremes to like a much more static movement. And I'm not saying that I think we're still going to experience like these like highly emotional moments in our lives that are going to be like, okay, let's not fucking do that again. But at the same time, I think we've grown a lot, and I think that's kind of what the new. I hate saying saying cliche things, but like that's what like the 20s are for now. 20s
right now, culturally,
yeah, exactly. Like our parents' generation and the generation prior to that, like we've talked to us before on the show and outside of the show. That my grandma was 17 when she was married, and had like 4 kids at 22. It's crazy, but it's like
a lot of 20s. Yeah, a lot of 20-somethings almost seem like they're still experiencing their teen years. And I think that's important.
That's kind of what it was like. Yeah, I mean, it's because we're all partying and like we're still finding ourselves,
meeting people, and
and it's that I think is what a lot of the kind of maturity that we've been doing is. It's with age, yes, but it's because we've had so many experiences with this aging.
I think that
I'm really proud of myself for that.
It was very well said. Definitely one of the most well said things you've had on the show, and we've both shared a lot of those. And I think that I also just kind of have that sense about us as adults by comparison to others who are our age, where it's just like maybe part of it is also because we have these conversations, because we get to sit down and have these hard conversations where it's just like, what does turning 30 mean to us? What does, like losing this person in our life mean to us? Things like that. I also come back to like consistency. Like I know who I am as a person. Like and that's also knowing that with the certainty that you can never fully know yourself. I can't help but bring this up. Someone said to me not too long ago, like, oh, like you need to date yourself, or maybe they were saying it to someone else, or maybe they were saying it about themselves. And in my mind, I couldn't help but just be like, I could tell them, but I'm not going to. Because it was just like, this is something you need to learn for yourself. You can try as hard as you want to learn who you are, and sometimes that will be required. But most of the time, you are in a constant state of change and progress. And to try to fully know yourself at any given moment is kind of a stretch at the impossible. Like, it's... Go ahead.
It's kind of like what they teach in chemistry, you cannot... Like, everything's an entropy. Like, you cannot... find the exact place and location of an electron at that moment, because at that moment it doesn't exist anymore. Like it's just like everything is constantly in motion, including ourselves. So it's just like, yeah, I think you're right. Like you can get a pretty good idea of who we are now. Yeah. But we are still developing that for years to come.
I don't know who I'm going to continue to be with you. I don't know, I see our relationship persisting. I see my relationship with Jenny persisting, even though we aren't calling it a relationship in that sense anymore.
Sure.
These things continue, and yet, like, there is still this uncertainty about myself, like more now than there was before. And yet, I still know who I am. Circling back to doing good things, I did a good thing. Those around me even acknowledge that, like, it's a good thing and I'm a good person. But it definitely had me, like, questioning, like, should I have really done that? And yet I continue. I'm going to continue to do these things. I just gave some in-game currency to a dude who needed some last night, who was, just maybe a bit more financially strained than I am. I do admittedly, here's another one. I do admittedly seem to do a lot better with money than I used to and than those around me. In fact, I'm doing phenomenally. Anyway,
good.
Yeah. Anyway, so like, yeah, but I continue to do good things, and that is a mantra, and I'm gonna continue to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
as long as those around me, like, I don't feel like I need the acknowledgement of those around me, but it is always one of those things that, like, you should keep yourself in check. Don't
Mm-hmm.
ever be too confident that you can't allow some doubt in. Doubt is necessary for one's self-awareness. And so, like, there's two things there. Self-awareness, which we've talked about before, and financial responsibility. So, yeah, thoughts, whichever one you want to take off with.
Oh boy.
Yeah, but I think they're both huge parts of turning 30, especially the self-awareness. Well, actually both, especially the self-awareness and especially financial responsibility.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how to really package together the self-awareness, to be honest. So I'll talk about the other. Like I was actually with over at Josh's yesterday, and we were talking about that, and he's actually they sold their house. They're going to buy another house. They have another kid due in May. Like, and Josh is a year younger than me, and it's just like they have all that shit going on. And then there's me, single, still renting an apartment. Like, and he's got he's got a better job than he had, so he's just got an established career. So does Sarah. And we were talking about money and budgeting, and now it's like that I am approaching 30. Like, I feel like I'm like, all right, I gotta stop dicking around and actually start thinking about the future. And over the past, I think 8 months or so, I've actually kept a spreadsheet of my bills.
There you go.
And it's really depressing.
Oh.
Because I've seen like so many months where I've spent more than I actually take in. And
you also have this luxury, admittedly.
I do have.
We won't dive into it. But,
exactly. I mean, I do have a large savings elsewhere, but still, like, I don't feel like it's responsible for me to just depend on that. It's like I actually do want to put my own money aside that I make, and put it in IRAs or whatever, and stop spending so frivolously on drinking or
But these
whatever.
acknowledgments are important, and acknowledging like your
Absolutely.
spending habits, recognizing them, seeing them in action, taking on bills. Like, fully admit, like, I am doing phenomenally with the money I am taking in, but it's not enough to cover my expenses for living. Like, part of that has to do with my health, which is massively improving as well. In fact, the next time you see me, you're probably going to be impressed because I have slimmed down a lot.
Good for you.
And yeah, I back in the gym. And so, like, yeah, like, kind of like recognizing the bills that need to be paid, and just kind of knowing how to handle your money. I think that's a huge one that I think our, especially American society, has trouble imparting upon the young, youth, like, just how to handle your money. Like, stop spending all of it. Like, just because it's there doesn't mean it needs to be spent. In fact, oddly, it seems like Warframe is actually one of the things that helped me to identify that like, just because it's there doesn't mean it needs to be used. And yeah, so I just I feel like that also empowers me to kind of go out there and do good things. I'm not trying to do too many extravagant things for those around me, but like here and there, like little things like buying one of the guys dinner instead of just being like, it's no big deal, but also like also recognizing that like people deserve their own agency and trying not to force things on others. Like and then of course like financial responsibility, all of it, it's all a part of this weird package of growing up, and yet the financial responsibility feels good, like paying some of my own bills, like going to the doctors and mom being like, you need, a copay and you need a check and this and that. And it's just like, no, I've got it. And also, like, this one's going to feel a bit contrary to what I'm saying, but like also seeing the surprise on her or my dad's face when I say I can cover things like that. Going out to dinner with the whole family, and like my dad always picks up the bill. That's a very dad thing to do. Always picking up the bill for my siblings, me, my older siblings, of course, and he said the one time he was just like, well, like Scott can't cover the bill, and referring to my sister who is only a couple of years older than me, and much like us, still finding her way. Steph can't cover the bill either, and I looked at him and I was just like, no, I actually could pay for that comfortably, and not have a problem getting to the next paycheck. Being comfortable with things like gas, not having to worry for a second about just like, I'm going to need to fill up my tank, but that might make me question, like if I can afford this or this. It's just like, so Mark's, I think there's Mark's down in Columbus. So there's a couple of them.
Yeah,
the chain
over by like Henderson, I think.
They sell the Speedway gift cards, and these gift cards allow you to take 10 cents off a gallon. And this was months ago, back like near a Christmas party, and I had been doing this for a couple months then. But I walk in, I pay for the $50 gas card, and I know that that's basically going to get me to the next paycheck as far as filling up my tank. And she looks at me and she's like, I really need to start doing that. And I was just like, you just got to get in the habit. And I never would have done that at her age. This girl behind the counter, she probably was in her teens or maybe her early 20s. And I never would have done that. But now, I just know that it is the better method. It's a bit out of my way, but it saves so much money.
Well, it's kind of like, I mean, if you can go to like Kroger, for example, and buy gift cards for, let's say if I eat at like Subway all the time, you can get it like a Subway gift card or any other restaurant, and there's dozens of them, and it's like you can get like 10 cents off a gallon for every gift card you buy. It's like, holy shit. Like,
oh yeah, the get-go points. Yeah,
exactly.
And then that's money that you've set aside for your dining.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny too, among things is definitely food, man. Like I spend a fuck ton of money going out for food, and I've been talking to some other friends about like meal prepping, and it's like I've talked shit about it for so much because I don't understand. Like I'm the kind of person that likes to have different kind of food almost every day of the week of some sort, and the idea of having the same meals like 3 days, 4 days, 5 days of the week just kind of irks me. But man, you can save a ton of money doing that. Just like cook at home. You have 3 to 5 dinners just ready for you to go. You don't need to go out. You don't need to spend $7 on Chipotle that night.
We've talked about this. Part of my problem with that is using so many dishes on just yourself. That's part of my problem with that. But at the same time, in the same hand, I also have been noticing like. How much I spend for how much I really gain. Like my mom was making salads, and we didn't have croutons, and we were out of the dressing I typically used. All in all, for 2 dressings and a bag of croutons, $5 and change. Whereas like with some junk food I went and got last night, $13, and I was just like, the polarity between the worth of these two things that I'm going to get out of with the dressings and the croutons compared to like this junk food. It's just like that, there's just this I want to say extrapolation between the two. Like one is just wildly different than the other, but I know that's the wrong word. Just this large difference between the two, and yeah, like kind of just also knowing how far your money is going at the same time. I've been noticing that a lot more too. And again, I don't think this is a part of turning 30 as much as that applies to being mature and financially responsible, which some people have as soon as they're in their teens. Some people don't.
They really do.
And I think one of the final ones I want to touch on, at least for me, before maybe you bring anything else up, kids. So we've talked about this before. I don't know if we've talked about it on the show.
I don't know.
Well, here we go. I have almost never wanted kids. And often, we definitely have talked about this, where it's just like, oh, when you have them, you'll understand. That whole bullshit. But herein lies the problem with that response. Turning 30, of course, like hearing people around me saying, I'm turning 30, it's in my head. And I was like, I'm not going to let it bother me. It's not that it bothers me, it's just very in my head now. And so, it doesn't have me questioning things to the point where I'm just like, I'm going to have kids. But I did see one of my preferred podcasts where they were talking about this. And, you know, one of the guys who went from dating one girl to another girl now was talking about how, like, yeah, until I was with, you know, the girl he's with now, he really hadn't thought about having kids or wanting them. And
Isn't that scary?
and when she said, "Yeah, I want one or two kids," he said, he was just like, "Yeah," I was just like, "Yeah, definitely." And in his head, he was just like, "Huh?" And
just I just imagine like in my own brain just like 21-year-old Mark just going like, "What? What are you doing?"
And I don't think it's as simple for me as just, oh yeah, definitely, because I'm definitely a person with a lot of self-awareness. I'm very aware of the things I want and who I am as a person. However, I obviously admit that you can never 100% know yourself.
Right.
And so, yeah, there is also that part of me that's just like, well, I wouldn't just be like, yeah, sure. But I think there would be a discussion of just like, well, for a long time I haven't, but I think this is something we could easily have a discourse over. And yeah, I don't know.
I totally understand where you're coming from. You know, for the longest of I've ever known, you know, I've not been into kids, nor have I wanted children. You know, I've got a couple nieces, and I have no allure towards them. Like yeah, like love them on their own cool. But
That
I
sounds
see them, I'm out of town.
weird. Do not use the word allure towards young
what's
kids
the word I was looking
anymore.
for?
It's okay. It's okay. We know that's not what you wanted to use. Continue.
But, you know, when people like my parents, for example, like when my sister had her like first kid, it was just like, oh my god, baby, amazing, I want to hold her. And like a lot of people are like this, you know, even if they're strangers, you know, the people that you don't know, they're like, I want to hold your child. Like kids are beautiful things. Like it's a blessing. And I'm just like, no, like I don't.
Exactly.
I've held each of my nieces once, and I'm like, this does fuck off for me. Like, just absolutely nothing. Like, I get more enjoyment holding a Jimmy John's sandwich in that same manner. And, you know, so I've always been this way.
A little different.
A little bit.
One you want to eat and know you'll be satisfied by. Another very awkward.
But that's why I feel I'm holding a child. I'm like, this doesn't belong.
This is not a Jimmy John's sandwich.
This is not Jimmy John's, nor is it a football. So why am I holding this like one of those? It doesn't make sense. But so I've always been that way. And however, I have said this in the past that if I were to fall madly in love with some woman in the future and she was just like, and I knew for a fact I'd be with her forever, and you know, she was like, put a baby in me, I'm not saying I would say no. Like,
and then you go, like, then you go to an adoption agency, you adopt a baby and shove it in her.
Let's go to Kenya and get one.
Kenya, and your son will run like a Kenyan.
A Kenyan.
Power thirst. Look it up.
God, so long. But you know, so yeah, there is a slight percent chance I would be like, okay. So I understand where that, you know, that podcaster was coming from, or just like, okay. But you know, as things stand now, like I'm, you know, like Stephanie and I are back, you know, we're a thing again. You know, it's just like, and she's also like on. Yeah, she went to Devin's wedding with me. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Congrats.
I mean, we talk every day anyway, so it's like we're a thing again. And it's like, and she's definitely on the no kid train. And for me, I'm like, that's absolutely fine. I have no problem with that. So yeah, again, but like you said, you know, it's a matter of like, do you know yourself? And like, there's no saying what's going to happen in life in the future. So it's just like, if I'm with Stephanie forever, then that's how that story goes.
Well, you also touched on something that I had also thought about before for this topic. No, God damn it. I did have Jimmy John's today, though. I still smell the tuna, which means I need breath mint. Anyway, so the other thing is madly in love. I think that this also starts to become antiquated with age and with maturity. I think that mature love is healthier and more powerful than you know, this notion of madly in love, uncontrollable urges, uncontrollable affection towards. And I know that that's not entirely what you mean, but I still want.
Yeah.
I still want to suss this out because let me go. Because like I also kind of noticed the looks of like people who don't understand what Jen and I had, a relationship for 2.5 years across seas, where it's just like I loved this woman very deeply, and yet the reason we came to a close was for very healthy reasons. We had both recognized that there was this obstacle that was still continually growing bigger, and because we separated in such a friendly manner, much like you did with Steph before you got back together.
That's what we do.
Can never tell with you, so I'm just trying to be careful. Anyway, Steph, don't watch this podcast.
I just give a shit what I do.
Good. Because you kind of don't either. And so, yeah, I guess, I just think to myself, when people give me this look of just like, you're handling it so well, like maybe you didn't really love her, and I'm assuming from looks like this is, I'm extrapolating, and that's the proper use of extrapolating. But yeah, like mature love is also something that you can maturely come down from, but it doesn't mean that it's not love. It doesn't mean that it's not as great or as grand. We certainly had great and grand things that we shared. And I want to talk to you about love. Mark, what do you think of love at nearing your 30 mark? Because I think for me, it definitely also circles back to that thing of just like trying to make something work that probably isn't there. Yeah. Where I'm just like, no, she's not interested. Next. But yeah, like for me, like I think I kind of want to get back into a dating scene. I don't want to spring back into it, but it's like, yeah, I definitely want to find someone who's interested, but at the same time, I also want to very much respect Jenny, that she's only started to deal with this, and it's going to take time. And yeah,
what kind of triggered in my brain was, and I believe we've both fallen victim to this in the past.
I know what you're about to say. Go on.
Is infatuations.
Yep.
And what you're saying, when we first went on a little whatever the fuck you said.
Wow! Way to just denigrate the shit out of everything I just said.
No. Like you started
whatever you just said.
Being like madly in love with it, but it's like I couldn't quote you because I'm going to quote you fucking wrong because my memory is shit. So it's just like whatever you said in the beginning of this past.
All that garbage that guy just said, I'm going to comment on it.
But no, I was
Jesus.
I didn't mean it that way. It was just like I was trying to quote.
I know, but that's how it came across. That was wonderful. Anyway. We're having a lot of great moments on this episode.
That's a good one.
Continue.
I know for a fact we both kind of
40-minute
fell
mark.
into situations, in our mid-20s.
Oh my God, way too hard.
And when we fell out of that infatuation, we fell flat on our fucking face.
I have to tell the listeners out there, because I know some of them are one day going to meet you. There was this one time where you had broken up with a girl and you had literally told me, nah, dude, I think I'm just going to go drive to Lake Erie and just stare at the lake for a while. And I was just like...
That sounds like something I would do.
Oh, God. And that was literally a thing you said to me in text. I could probably pull it up on my old phone.
What if I did that?
I kind of wonder if you did too. I was thinking about calling your mom to be like, are you
okay?
Drive
himself into the fucking lake.
Are you okay with this? But yeah, like I touched on this before, man. Like, you told me, like there was this one girl I was super infatuated with in college, and you told me how many times that it's just like, it's not gonna work. It's, she's just not interested. Like even if she showed interest, like it's fleeting. Like just let it go. But continue, yeah.
But yeah, I think that's, it kind of ties into the pendulum thing. It's like, and maturing into our
Extremes to
30s.
yeah.
Exactly. We went from the extreme of like, I'm so in love with this person, but really you're in a deep infatuation with them, and then something terrible happens, and it's just like, oh, terrible, bad things, everything's horrible. And then we've learned not to do that anymore. So I feel like, as we're getting older and as we're maturing, we steer away from these infatuations. We get to know what we're getting ourselves into before we call it what it is and what we want it to be.
And I would also like to say that part of it, I think, is largely experience too, where it's just like we have gone through these things. There are, not to comment too much on it, but Jenny handling things incredibly well, far beyond what I did in some of my first breakups and second breakups and even third and whatever. And yeah, just like there are still things that like I can't help but come back to like communication skills and the notion of to master is forever to be the student. Like you can learn languages, you can learn cultures, you can take your time learning all of it, but at the end of the day, like you can never master it, and we, much like you and I do at times, much like Jersey and I do, much like Jenny and I do, we fumble with our words, and recognizing that, and being okay with that, and then taking a step back and finding the proper words, or finding the way to discuss these things, to discuss your feelings, instead of just being like, it's hard. And like finding ways to discuss these things. It's definitely more of a part of maturity, but we're both coming to that at the same time, at the same age, and that can't be neglected either.
Right.
So, Mark, for me, it's been a good conversation. Did you have anything you wanted to wrap up on? It's been a 40-minute conversation. God damn.
Man, that was good.
It was.
Good to be back.
And now we have to go record the first part. So,
damn it. Well, that was probably the weakest one so far. So we're kind of in our element. We got the juices flowing. Indeed. So this one will be a little bit better, I think.
All right. So yeah, let's go get that done. And guys, thank you for watching. Of course, as always, if you like what we had to do here, do the thing. And Mark, what do we tell them?
Do good things, guys.
Do good things. See you next time.